Welcome back to Project Aviate. Today we're taking a journey into the dawn of the jet age, a moment in aviation history that changed the world forever. Before the sleek jetline as we know today, air travel was dominated by propeller-driven aircraft. Imagine the early 1950s, crowded airport terminals filled with passengers dressed in suits and dresses, waiting to board aircraft like the Douglas DC-6 or the Lockheed Constellation. The engines roared loudly, the flights were long, and while flying was glamorous, it was far from the smooth, fast experience we associate with modern aviation. This was the backdrop against which a revolution was about to unfold. In that era, piston-engine aircraft had reached their limits. They were reliable and iconic, but their cruising speeds hovered around 300 miles per hour, and crossing the Atlantic could still take upwards of 10 hours with stops along the way. Airlines and passengers alike wanted something faster, quieter, and more efficient. Aviation companies began exploring the idea of jet-powered commercial aircraft. Futuristic artwork from the 1950s showcased visions of sleek airplanes with swept wings and streamlined bodies, promising a future where passengers could cut travel times in half and fly higher above the weather. The stage was set for one company to take the leap. Inside Boeing's drafting rooms, engineers were working tirelessly on concepts that would change aviation forever. The military had already embraced jet technology for bombers and fighters, but bringing that same power and reliability into commercial airliners required bold innovation. Out of this effort came the Boeing 360-780, known as the Dash 80, the prototype that would eventually give birth to the Boeing 707. Rolled out in 1954, the Dash 80 was Boeing's gamble, built without any airline orders but with a vision that the future of aviation was jet-powered. The moment that prototype took off from the runway for its first flight was nothing short of historic. Onlookers watched in awe as the sleek new jet climbed faster and higher than any passenger aircraft before it, leaving behind smoky exhaust trails that symbolized a new age of power. The Dash 80 even stunned audiences during a test demonstration over Lake Washington, when Boeing's test pilot Tex Johnston performed a daring barrel roll, proving the confidence Boeing had in its new jet. This audacious move would mark the birth of the Boeing 707, an aircraft designed not only for performance but for transforming how people experienced flight. Step inside the cabin of a Boeing 707 in the late 1950s and you'll see just how different it felt. The interiors were stylish, with wide seats compared to today, large windows, and a sense of futuristic comfort. Passengers dressed in their finest clothes, enjoying meals served on trays with silverware, sipping drinks while cruising at 600 miles per hour. Flying in the jet age was more than transportation, it was an event. On the flight deck, pilots had access to analog instruments and powerful jet throttles that gave them control of an aircraft capable of crossing oceans non-stop. The sense of power and modernity was undeniable. The Boeing 707 quickly became the crown jewel of international airlines. Pan American World Airways, or Pan AM, was the first to place a significant order, introducing the 707 into regular service in 1958. With its iconic blue globe tail, the 707 sliced through the skies at nearly double the speed of older propeller planes. A flight from New York to Paris that once took a full day could now be done in just about 7 hours. For passengers, this was magic. For airlines, it was efficiency and prestige. Suddenly, the world felt smaller and long-distance travel became accessible to more people than ever before. To truly appreciate the leap, imagine a side-by-side comparison of the 707 and its propeller predecessors. While the Constellation cruised gracefully with its 4 engines and elegant triple tail, the 707 roared past at jet speeds, higher, faster, and quieter at altitude. It wasn't just a step forward, it was a giant leap. Airports that once saw limited traffic from slower prop planes were now bustling with sleek jets landing and taking off, bringing in more passengers than ever before. The infrastructure of air travel had to evolve to keep up with the revolution that Boeing had unleashed. In the 1960s, the sight of a Boeing 707 landing at airports like JFK symbolized progress. Crowds would gather to watch the jet arrive, and airlines proudly displayed advertisements calling it the most advanced way to travel. Posters boasted slogans about flying the future, appealing to a generation eager to embrace modern technology. The 707 became more than an aircraft. It became a cultural icon, representing sophistication, speed, and the optimism of a world connected by air. The impact of the 707 was global. With its long range, airlines could establish faster international routes, opening up connections that had previously been impractical or impossible. A world map of the era shows how travel time shrank and new possibilities opened up. Business, tourism, and even diplomacy were transformed by the ability to get across continents and oceans in hours rather than days. For the first time, it was realistic to have breakfast in New York and dinner in London. At major airports around the world, terminals filled with rows of Boeing 707s painted in the liveries of different airlines. The jet became the backbone of fleets across the globe, from Pan Am to TUI, BOAC, Lufthansa, Air France, and beyond. Each 707 on the tarmac represented a commitment to speed and progress. The jet age was no longer a promise, it was a reality shaping the daily lives of millions of passengers. And as the 707 cut across the skies, often silhouetted against the sunset, it carried with it the symbolism of a new chapter in human history. This was more than just an airplane. It was the aircraft that made the world smaller, that transformed air travel from a luxury for the few into an expectation for the many, and that set the stage for every modern jetliner that followed. Without the Boeing 707, there would be no 747, no Airbus A380, no modern fleets crisscrossing the skies today. The Boeing 707 started the jet age not just because it was fast or advanced, but because it proved that jet-powered air travel was viable, profitable, and revolutionary. It brought nations closer together, accelerated globalization, and forever changed how humanity moves across the planet. Even though newer aircraft have long since replaced it, the 707 remains a symbol of daring innovation and the bold spirit of aviation. So the next time you see a photograph of a Boeing 707 climbing into the sky, think of it not just as a jet, but as the aircraft that opened the door to the world we know today. It was the machine that turned the dream of the jet age into reality, and for that reason, it will always hold a special place in the history of flight. And that's why the Boeing 707 started the jet age.